Athens City Council. It's Monday night, February 12th, 2018 at 7 p.m. And we do have a series of committee meetings tonight, and including a presentation from one of our community programs. And just to alert the audience tonight that the items that are listed on the agenda are what will be discussed in committee. So we won't have, as in we do in regular business section, that necessarily that open opportunity for people to speak on a variety of topics. We'll only be addressing the topics on the agenda tonight. Our first committee is the Transportation Committee, and this is chaired by Councilperson Peter Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I just have 3 bullet points tonight to cover, and so we will move very quickly into the first one, which is bounty on the bricks, which is doesn't seem like it should be too far off at this point because spring is coming. So we do have some presenters here tonight, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Sydney Weber. I'm Director of Marketing and Communication at Ohio Health of Glennis Hospital. And I'm here on behalf of the hospital and our bounty committee to ask for street closure for bounty on the bricks on August 4th of this year. It's a Saturday night. In the past, we have had from Washington to, I'm going to blank, Court. No, on Court Street from Washington to, somebody help me.
Union,
thank you. This will be the 5th year for bounty. Last year we raised about $105,000 for bounty on the bricks, and in total we've raised over $4,000 over the $400,000 over the last 5 years. In addition to organizing the event with a group of community volunteers, we do work in partnership with local businesses who sponsor the event. Last year we raised over $30,000 through that group. The Osteopathic Heritage Foundation has always matched that amount, and the Sisters Health Foundation has always matched that amount. We have gotten a commitment from the Osteopathic Heritage Foundation, and we're waiting for the Sisters Foundation. As a reminder, food insecurity is a major health issue in our community, and we feel strongly that bringing people together in a really visible way on Court Street not only financially supports the food bank, but does raise awareness for food insecurity. So, Austin, maybe you can help with where the money goes.
My name is Austin Payne. I'm the Division Director at the Food and Nutrition Division of HAPCAP, so that encompasses the Southeast Ohio Food Bank. Our food bank covers 10 counties in Southeast Ohio. Bounty on the Bricks is going to help fund some pantries in 8 of those 10 counties. Last year, to give you an idea, we did 6.4 million pounds of food. The numbers of families and individuals food insecure is the same as it's been 5 years ago, I think, when this started. So it's 1 in 6 individuals are struggling with hunger. And when we look at children, that number actually increases to 1 in 4. To give you an idea, last year, 83% of the households we served either had a senior, a child, or both living in the home. And so we're really reaching those vulnerable populations. And just for some numbers, so I went with how the funds were used from 2016, because 2017 are still currently being spent by our pantries. But for the funds that went to the pantries account, they were able to purchase and distribute over 80,000 pounds of food with those funds raised. So Bounty on the Bricks is by far our largest fundraising event that benefits what we're doing. It helps our agency and our facility, but also our network of member agencies. So we have about 60 member agencies that operate food pantries and soup kitchens within the regions and serving those families directly. So,
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. You know, and this is something that I like to think about and talk about, is that a lot of people think that the city of Athens is a special snowflake, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But in this instance, in that we have the ability to help our region. You know, it's always like, well, why wouldn't we do that? So I really, I think it's great that Ohio Health, you know, stepped up and took this over from the Athens County Foundation, and has continued to grow the pot. Does anybody on council have any questions?
Some people have said in the past that they would love to come and partake. And because it is it's a large community gathering, but they can't afford to be able to go. And how do you utilize? I know last couple of years people said, well, we'll look at that sliding fee scale or something like that, or volunteering. And so I just want to say, once again, there are a lot of people who would love to come and would love to do that community thing.
So tickets, we've discussed this a lot, and really it is a fundraiser, and it, ticket price is part of what we're raising. We utilize volunteers. All the servers are volunteers. Most of the kitchen is volunteers. Our committee is a volunteer. So we have a lot of people participating in the event who might not be able to, and we can take it back. Is there a way to open that up for more people?
How can somebody volunteer if they would like?
They can contact me, and we can actually include that information when we put the date out.
Yeah, that would be nice. Thank you.
Great.
Any additional? I'll start asking some nitty-gritty stuff, but I'll turn it over to. So with the street closure itself, what time? Because I know it's usually early in the morning that you want to start that process. Do you know the exact times?
We usually start around 8. So I don't know when you would actually have to shut, but we start setting up around 8. One great thing I noticed from last year setting up for the first time is we only close the street to traffic, so we don't put any pedestrian blocks. So it's we put those up around 6:30. So the street is functionally open while we're setting up. It's just the cars.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and I assume administration can know when we need to start thinking about closing the street for an 8 o'clock start, but
for the timing of the closure.
Correct.
Likely close the street down early like we have in the past for this particular event, because there's a lot of setup that's entailed in making this work. Everything from the tables and chairs, but also making sure that the culinary area is set up and is able to mobilize early. So we'll get those times and make sure council has those for the actual street closing time.
Okay. All right. Do you have additional comments?
I do. I mean, again, I have been fully aware and have frequented the Bounty on the Bricks since its inception. I know what a positive impact this event has for our local food pantries and food bank. And I really, really applaud Oblinus Hospital. Mark Seckinger, the president of Oblinus Hospital, under Ohio Health, he's here tonight as well. But I thank you all for continuing to carry this torch of something that has just been recognized not only in the region, but it's been recognized nationally as well, to where it's a rather long table that is generating a lot of much needed revenue that comes into the food pantry. So again, thank you to all of you for carrying this forward. It wasn't an easy decision on Athens County Foundation's side as well, to not continue. They certainly support it, but found that they didn't really have the horsepower to keep it going, but did for the first 4 years, I believe. So thank you.
Great. Okay, I think that's all we have. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, second one here on the list is the ODOT Local Project Agreement. This is an LPA bridge deck overlay. And I will apologize up front. This started coming through on Friday. And we really, both myself and administration is still trying to determine exactly where this work is going to be done. So this is similar to the last two ordinances that just got passed, where ODOT is just asking for us to sign off on some work that they want to do on a bridge, an overlay of a deck on a bridge that's within city limits. In the preliminary legislation, I see they have 0.23 miles east of East State Street overpass on US 33. Which, if I had to, and I'm just making an educated guess, that sounds like that might be over the Stimson Avenue overpass. No, that would be west. That'd be west of. So,
Correct.
once again, we'll know more this week.
We'll get more from ODOT
Yes,
on this
yeah.
project. It will be a 2018 late summer project. As we understand it with this project, with the deck overlay, the intent at this point is to keep one lane of travel on that bridge deck open, and therefore closing down one. We have to drill a little bit deeper too in terms of any level of detouring. As we understand it, there's likely to be a truck detour for this particular project, but not for cars, because of the width in which they're going to have to narrow things down on that bridge deck to do one side, and then start work on the other side. So, remember, Kotz, there's more to come on the actual physical location of this particular project, but it's ODOT funded. It's not a city project, but it will impact the city.
And then the last bullet point that we have is Stimson Avenue project that is coming up here in the next 2 years. And for this one, and I'll just state this up front, I had a conversation with the Ohio Ethics Commission this morning, and just to double check what I probably, I kind of already knew. Since I am a property owner on Stimson Avenue, I will not be participating in this project from a council position whatsoever. So from this point forward, Patrick McGee will be taking over this, the heavy lifting on this part for council's side, and now it's time for me to be quiet.
And we would certainly thank Pete for all the work he's done so far on it. I was asked to briefly mention that the city is apparently taking bids for the project, I believe.
I just have a point of clarification on recusal. Would Councilmember Kotz need to leave the room for this conversation or no? Can't participate. Thank you.
Yeah, I had that conversation earlier today to make sure, yes. I can leave if you want.
I'm safeguarding you. That's all.
I don't want you to leave.
Just from the notes that I've seen on the project itself, apparently it's the project on Stimson Avenue that would be approximately 4/10 of a mile and be about $4.5 to $5 million in scope, I believe, and would cover a numerous amount of improvements to the area, which I'm sure the mayor would like to inform us about. So.
Sure, Stimson Avenue is something where we have applied 3 times in the past, and finally on the 3rd time we were successful in getting a small cities grant for Stimson Avenue. It would be from the roundabout up to East State Street, and so this would be a streetscape project. What we're asking for is authorization and appropriation for design part 1 of this project, which is about $200,000 coming out of Fund Line 572. Let me go into a little bit more detail on this. Our city engineer, Andy Stone, our assistant engineer, Jessica Dine, as well as Paul Logue, city planner, are going to be involved in the design process. Paul Logue is involved because of his work that he's currently underway with the comprehensive plan, and that Stimson Avenue fits within the comprehensive plan, so he'll be involved as well. The purpose of the project for Stimson Avenue is safety conditions, intersections, accessibility for mobility impaired persons, lighting, streetscape, aesthetics, storm drain, communications, interconnectivity with the traffic light, traffic signal system. It also will include improvements to city-owned water and sewer utilities, as well as possible bearing of private electric and telecom utilities in the corridor. So we are going to be submitting or requesting letters of interest. That'll be going out on the 23rd of February to see for the design phase who might be interested in working on this project.
question.
Thank you. I appreciate the mayor's leadership on this issue and acknowledgement that I appreciate Councilmember Costas also looking into the ethics and recusing himself. I appreciate him taking that leadership step there as well. A couple thoughts come to my mind regarding Stimson Avenue. Many of us who've been on council long enough recall on our tours with Andy Stone that this was on the radar to be addressed. And so I applaud us moving forward. I'm hopeful that we are able to work with the electric company to bury the lines. I think that's needed and will aid and beautify Stimson, as well as help move telephone poles that are in the way of sidewalks for accessibility that can get in the way for anyone, whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you're pushing a stroller or whether you're struggling with mobility and crutches, whatever it may be. It helps make the space more accessible and benefits our choice to become more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. So I definitely applaud us moving forward with Stimson. I think, if I recall, that concrete that's crumbling now on Stimson itself has been there for a really long time and in desperate need again of upgrades. So I'm excited for us to be moving forward and addressing some desperate needs. I know we're hearing lots of complaints about other aspects of the city with potholes and whatnot, but those are being addressed, and those are part of our long-term goals as well to proceed. So thank you.
I would also second the councilman's concerns about the citizens being quite concerned about the East State Street corridor at this point in time, the potholes. And my understanding is that we have an assurance that any money spent on Stimson Avenue would certainly not be taken from the need to repair State Street, certainly, and people should understand that it's not an either-or situation. So.
Thank you, Councilmember McGee. That's absolutely correct, that we cannot use this grant funding for other areas throughout the city.
I want to emphasize the stairway that goes between Montrose and Stimson, because it's at a very peculiar angle right now, very creative. It's a very creative angle. Also, one thing that I think should be said about potholes, I found that driving down East State Street, people are driving a lot slower. So that's one thing about, it's like brick streets, people drive slower down brick streets. But also we will be investing a lot of money in the very near future, looking at, regrading and redoing the whole East State Street. So those potholes may not be filled by the time that the whole project starts, because it will start in March.
No, I think we're, without going too far off topic, because we are talking
Let's close the conversation up on this, yes.
I will be as tactful as I possibly can, President Isley, that no, we will be working on those potholes now, as soon as weather permitted. But again.
But there is that project coming up.
There is.
Have you put on the website to inform citizens of the general outline of these various projects, the calendar, I think, would be good to put up for people.
We can do that.
Thank you.
That's a good idea. Got another one? Councilmember Crowell?
Mayor, I know that there's been some conversation about the post office box and people who come across the street to park in front of it. Will that be addressed in this?
You know, Member Crowell, I don't know. We'll look into that. I mean, this is going to be the design phase, so during the design phase, that could come up. It is interesting with that property being federally owned as the post office. There are some nuances with that as to how we go about doing things, but we'll explore that. I agree with you.
Time to do it. I mean,
I like those drop boxes. They're unless I have a passenger in the car, they're kind of awkward. But we'll move forward. We'll figure that one out. Good question.
Apparently that's it.
All right. If that's the last discussion, then we complete
If that's it, we're done with Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll move on to City and Safety Services Committee, and this is chaired by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Nisley. Similarly, we have 3 bullet points to address this evening. First, beginning with a presentation by Executive Director Mary Nally, who is the Director of Community Food Initiatives. So she's offering an update on CFI and educating us about their progress. Thank you.
Great. Hi. Thank you very much for having me today. So I am here to talk to you about community food initiatives. As Mr. Butler says, we are currently celebrating our 25th anniversary. Wow. And I just wanted to share with you through our ongoing transformation of our mission to foster communities where everyone has equal access to fresh local food. I'll be highlighting the impacts from 2017 as well as bringing your attention to some of our new activities that are intended to deepen and expand our efforts throughout the Southeast Ohio region. As you are all well aware, our community garden program is kind of our flagship initial program, and our numbers for 2017 line up well with what we've seen over the past several years. We had around 51 gardeners and hosted 34 workshops, having excellent participation. Things that I wanted to mention is that we are in progress of relocating the Chansey Community Garden in partnership with the Athens County Public Library branch there in Chansey. We're very excited to have a more permanent and more accessible home for that garden. In Nelsonville, we're also in conversation currently with Integrated Services Behavioral Health to relocate that garden to the Mary Hill Center. For those of you who may have visited the Nelsonville Garden in its current site, it's in the floodplain in a wonderful field that unfortunately had extreme flooding 3 times last year. And it just really wreaked havoc on the work that we have put into that garden over the past decade plus, and morale has been quite low. So going to high ground is a bonus, so hopefully that will come to pass. With our donation station and Discovery Kitchen programs, I'll first talk about Discovery Kitchen. This is where we go to the food pantries and other community centers to help educate people on what to do with seasonal ingredients that they may acquire by growing it themselves at their farmer's market or produce auction. One new exciting thing is that we've partnered with Ohio University's Jefferson Market Demonstration Kitchen, which is a new top-of-the-line demo kitchen. It just seems like you've walked into a cooking show, and so we're doing those now, targeting both community members and also off-campus students that are learning to cook in some ways for the first time. With our donation station, our numbers, as you can see here, are again in line and growing from past years. And we're very excited to now be serving 5 Southeast Ohio counties, so we've officially added Meigs County to the list. And you can also see that our food is coming from a variety of sources. So although we do purchase a great deal of food from the financial donations that people give us, we also have an incredible amount of food donations from community members and from the farmers and food producers in our region. With our school garden program, we have seen a lot of new activity this year, more teachers coming out of the woodwork who are finding ways to engage with the school gardens as a form of outdoor learning and connecting that with their testing standards. And that's been in no small part thanks to increase in season extension, which are really just very rudimentary low tunnels that we assist the schools to build that allows them to grow throughout the school year and therefore have more interaction with the students. We also, in partnership with the Athens City County Health Department's Creating Healthy Communities Coalition, will be putting up outdoor kiosks at the Athens City School and Trimble School gardens. This will serve as a way for both teachers and parents, and of course the students as well, to have a better way to communicate with one another, so we can have maps of the gardens, upcoming workshops, and a weekly task list of what needs to get done, just to make it a little easier for people to engage. With the Ridge and Hollow Seed Alliance, this is the essentially a seed company as a social enterprise that exists within CFI, based on over a decade's worth of work with seed savers in the region. We partnered with Ohio State University with some funding they had to host technical seed saving workshops actually across the state. This is the first thing we've ever done that was statewide. So we were very thrilled at the prospect. And with this, it will culminate in developing a statewide seed savers coalition with the intention of addressing some of the legal barriers that seed savers face, as well as helping build networks and sharing more information to bolster this aspect of the local food system across our state. I know you've heard me talk about this a little bit before. I gave you a teaser last year as we were launching this project, but Southeast Ohio Food Link is an online resource hub that we are developing. It actually should be done within the next few weeks. We are mapping all of the 10 counties served by the Southeast Ohio Regional Food Bank and Kitchen, identifying where all of the emergency food and retail food outlets are. So food pantries, free meal programs, and grocers, whether it's a small scale store or a big box store. And each of those counties will have a profile based on the data available through the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the census. We'll then host a community meeting in each of those 10 counties with community stakeholders to develop county-specific and appropriate action plans. So this will be kind of, again, a very big expansion for us. Usually it's just been us in Athens County and our neighboring counties, but we're really hoping that this will gain more activity addressing food access across the region. Our seed giveaways and Plant Start giveaways were yet again another big hit last year, and we saw an increase in the number of counties involved with those, so that actually reached an 8-county region. And for our seed potato giveaway, we had folks come across from West Virginia to attend that. And just for anybody that's tuning in, I put in the dates of our giveaways for this upcoming spring. Our Youth Entrepreneurs at Hope, this is a partnership with the Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority, saw another great year in 2017. These young people that live in subsidized housing were able to go to a series of trainings and field trips, including working with Hocking Valley Bank, the Ohio University Credit Union, to learn basic money management skills, as well as the standard things that we do each year with them in terms of professional commercial kitchen behavior, having their own commercial garden and learning basics of gardening. But one thing that we did that was more unique in last year was that we did really deep interviews with the parents to see the long-term impact of this program. And if I may take a moment to just read one parent's quotation. She says, the skills my kids have picked up since becoming part of the YAP program include gardening and sometimes a willingness to try new foods. They've picked up skills in food preparation. They come home and brag about cooking at AceNet. My kids save money. My daughter has also picked up business skills. She exhibits leadership qualities. So even though this is a very intense for us, a very brief summer program with a small number of kids, we really are seeing a very deep impact in these families. Donation station development is actually a real thing at last. I've been wanting to replicate this program in other communities that have vibrant farmers market, and thanks to partnerships with Integrated Services Behavioral Health, the Chillicothe Farmers Market, and Operation Hope, we were able to finally pull it off and pilot the donation station there at the Chillicothe Farmers Market, and they had great success for their first year ever, and they actually were just awarded an AmeriCorps Vista to help build the capacity and sustainability of this program moving forward. Finally, I wanted to thank all of our business sponsors, of course, just to give them a brief shout out, as well as all of the volunteers that assist. As you all know, we have although I've doubled the staff in the past few years, we still have a very small staff. So it really is the interns, the volunteers, and our members that help make this work possible. They are the ones that do a great deal of the heavy lifting to help with these projects. And there are many ways for people to get involved. Whether it's just becoming a member, coming to a workshop, pledging to grow an extra row in your garden for the donation station, or to attend our annual membership meeting that's coming up next month. And my request and invitation to the city is to continue supporting CFI's programming across the board with your financial support. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Nally. Thank you. At this moment, I will pause to see if there are comments or feedback regarding CFI and our support from other council members. Councilmember McGee.
I just wanted to say you do a magnificent job. I participated in your gardens one year, and I know how great it is. I did have a question for you, though. Yes. I know you're expanding to other counties. Are there any cities that are actually getting involved with this and bringing the urban area in, or I should say the gardens into the urban area?
Yes, that's a great question, and we have not seen that happen yet. I am presenting to the Nelsonville City Council in the near future, and I hope to continue to be able to get more of those conversations started to just help them be aware of our programs and to hopefully get them more engaged.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Councilmember Costas.
Yes, thank you. You know, I always enjoy your presentation every year when you come through and do this, because you rattle off so many things. How many people are on your staff?
Okay, so we have 3 full-time staff now, myself, the donation station program manager, and our community engagement manager that's leading up the donation station development and the Food Link project. And then we have 2 part-time staff, 3 AmeriCorps members through the ComCorps program, and 2 AmeriCorps Vistas.
Oh. Well, good job. I mean, every time you come through and just rattle all these things off, it just blows my mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Costas. Any other comments? President Nisley.
Yes, I wanted to thank you too, and also to say what an important thing you're doing when we have an area that has the poverty rates that we do for not only adults, but even more so, as you mentioned, for children. And also that idea of empowering them. And so I think you're doing some really important work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Director Nally, I always challenge you every year to have a friendly rivalry of
Yes, I know.
within the city. I have attended, you know, the events at Hope Drive, you know, for a long time, and it's just so wonderful to look at the kids and their ability to present themselves and the pride that they have in what they're doing and the money they're making. So maybe my colleague of Chillicothe, Luke Feeney, and I can get together and throw down an interesting rivalry between of Athens and maybe a program out in Chillicothe as well.
That's a brilliant idea. Actually, at the Roten farm that Integrated Services owns, they work with a lot of at-risk youth there. So, and they already have a big garden where they're growing food. So we should talk.
Well, and to echo what the mayor said, Director Nally, the mayor of Chillicothe is an Athenian, having grown up here, so I'm sure you'll be able to tug on his ear a little bit and might be able to expand more programming that direction. But thank you again for presenting with us this evening. If there's no further questions, no further comments.
Okay. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is a discussion regarding the body cameras implemented and utilized by police departments within for safety measures and best practices. So I did speak briefly with the mayor as well as the city service safety director today, as well as Chief Pyle. If there is budget support and if council is amendable to this, there is acknowledgement that body cams can both help reduce complaints against officers as well as assist in, as many of you are aware of, assist in their implementation of what they do and work more efficiently. So the data from Axon and the information that was sent to us for quotes would be a 5-year contract, if I'm understanding the information correctly, with the initial upfront being $32,524, followed each year by about $18,402. So over 5 years, it would be a little over $106,000. And again, I believe that also includes a lot of technical support and assistance in the way. I think it's the tasers included. Is that correct?
They will be.
Okay.
Depending on when this is enacted or acted upon. We're currently under a 3-year contract with Axom for tasers, and so not until that contract expires can we roll that into an added benefit under the body-worn cameras in the quotes that you were just talking about. The upfront cost, as you mentioned, would be about $32,000 and change, but then in year 2, 3, 4, and 5, it goes down to just over $19,000 a year. Again, it's a cost. It's a cost within a budget that is already very, very tight. Chief Pyle has been doing a lot of homework on this and looking at what other chiefs across the state, what they're using. I think Member McGee can attest to this, that he and I were both at a conference last fall, I believe it was, up in Columbus, where among other things, there was a session where they talked about BWCs, body-worn cameras, and there was some real interesting information that came out on that. Axom's technology has really changed, in particular, over the past year. When we were first looking at them and the systems, and the worry was about downloading, attaching metadata, how that would impact the scheduling of our officers and overlap and so on and so forth. This system, this new system from Axon that's come out is largely cloud-based. The downloading is much more quick than it had been in the past, or at least the information we were gathering. There are other vendors out there, so we will look at some other vendors as well. But again, the chief, in having done all the research that he has into this, as well as, I think I can speak for myself, what I learned at that conference up in Columbus during that session was quite enlightening about the systems and the technology and how rapidly it's changing to where these devices are becoming more and more efficient, or at least making your police force more efficient in terms of time that you have to allocate towards, again, like I mentioned, downloading your data, attaching metadata to it, redacting anything that has to be, or if someone has a records request, then going through and making sure that what you're providing is what's being requested, as well as what can be given. So, I don't know if Member McGee wants to.
Yes, I would personally thank the mayor for following up on this subject. It is something that I have a great interest in. I'd like to point out 2 things that I believe the students of Athens are strongly in favor of this, and the second aspect of that kind of goes hand in hand in that nobody is criticizing the Athens Police Department for being unduly harsh or violent against the student body or anybody in particular, although having this kind of camera is a protection for the city and for the police department from being charged with frivolous charges, and I think that's an important thing to understand. Another thing that's very important, though, is that I believe these cameras are crucial for the kind of instances that both the police and students are dealing with on a regular basis with their interaction. There are quite often misunderstandings, mistakes, questions as to what's been said, how a procedure has gone, and it's the kind of thing that I think would improve the overall combination of citizen and police interaction, and I would surely recommend it, and again, I thank the mayor for following up on this.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I thought that I read in the Metropolitan, the OML, that the State House is looking at some of the issues surrounding what needs to be kept and what needs to be redacted. And they're addressing this issue in this legislative term. So, I mean, they are looking at what is considered necessary to keep forever and what's not. And so this issue is a moving target right now in some of the requirements that the state will have.
Thank you, Councilmember Fall. I too want to thank the chief as well as the mayor and Councilmember McGee too for engaging in the conversation and helping us look at this from all sides. In speaking with the chief too, he's done his homework, it's evident to me, and he's received positive feedback from other chiefs that have implemented this practice. And I have a feeling that if other departments were running into problems and headaches, then they would very clearly communicate that in that network and family. So I again value the chief's homework and his effort, the information we've received as well from Captain Harvey. So I'm supportive if the budget's there and if council and the mayor would like to move forward. I think it's something that we should look strongly into considering. Additionally, I will add that where I work with juvenile adolescents, we have over 100 cameras in the building. This room alone has 7. There's nothing wrong with, and it's helpful to have an extra set of eyes for safety and for all sides. So, thank you, Councilmember, and then the mayor.
Yes, Member Butler, how many of those cameras are trained on you?
Good question.
Actually, so my real question is, so the footage is then, so it's stored on the cloud. Is it stored for a certain amount of time, and then so how long? Just a quick technical question. Do you know how long it's
I can circle back around with Chief Pyle and ask how long it has to be maintained, but we have retention schedules for every bit of data that the city has, and so I'll double check with him in terms of how long the records need to be stored. But given that it's the police department, quite some time.
Well, and the legislature is going to be looking at this. I mean, that's specifically some of the things they are looking at is how long storage and what type of things need to be stored for how long. So I think that they're looking at, because of the issue of body cameras.
Okay. And then if I wanted to look at this company, what would I Google? I mean, is it just Axom?
AXOM? Or N, I'm sorry.
Yeah, N as in Nancy.
AXON.
Yeah, N as in Nancy,
Okay.
AXON.
And I can provide you with information as well.
Okay.
Member Cotz's.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
I just want to throw this out there, since Member Butler threw it out there already, that there's 100 cameras within where you work, and there's seven cameras in this room. These officers will have 1. So I throw that out there as a point of interest for a lot of people. I think we all get so used to, for those of you who are hooked on sports of whatever type, of having camera angles from all over the place on something to where people get to process, how was that really a touchdown? Did that skier really miss that gate? Whatever's going on, this is a vantage point from one police officer with that camera. So I feel so compelled to share that with everyone. And these cameras are there to protect the officers as well as they're there to protect the public.
Yes, Councilmember Meisner.
Do we have dash cams?
We used to have dash cams. And there was problems with those back in the day. They were dated. It was old systems. And what isn't in the line of sight of that vehicle is now off camera, and you don't know what's going on. So anyway.
Just wondering.
Thank you.
And it cuts both ways.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you. That leads us to our last item this evening, which is the jail contract with Washington County. We've received a request from the Washington County Commissioners in which to renew our yearly contract with them, which again is as needed only. It's a sort of emergency overflow for female prisoners. So again, it's on an as needed basis. The contract is requesting $62 a day, and this would be effective from April 1st of 2018 through March 31st of 2019. I believe this is maybe the third or fourth year that we've worked with Washington County on this. I may not have that exactly right, but this would be a renewal of past work we've done with them. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember.
Is the cost per day $62? Is that, well, cost per inmate being admitted $62? That's pretty close to what it has been, isn't it? I feel like
it is.
It's at least 60, but it's in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Crowell.
Just to note that the contract lists $62 and says in words $60 per day.
Oh, thank you for recognizing that. That could be something that we clarify.
Per day. Per person.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mayor?
Yeah, I also want to mention that, again, this is a contract, and it's been going on for several years, contract with Washington County. But something I think council should be cognizant of, that's just the $62 for that inmate stay, not to mention transit, for us to transport them up there as well, for an officer on duty to transport a prisoner up to Washington County, which is one more reason why it's a shame that the jail in Nelsonville is closing down. But anyway.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions or comments? If none, thank you, President Nisley. That concludes this section.
Thank you. We'll move on to the Finance and Personnel Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have 2 bullet points. Staffing and appropriations. Staffing, I'll turn to the administration.
Thank you, Member Reisner. 2 items under staffing. The first being increasing the staffing ordinance for interns for the mayor's office. We would like to increase that by 1. We would like to hire an intern over this summer, and that intern would be tasked with looking at city's revenue and expenditures over the past 8 to 10 years to help us with not only budget forecasting but trend analysis to look to see what have the financial trends looked like for the city of Athens. The city auditor is in agreement with having this happen and will grant access to whichever intern we select. I've also been in conversation with the Dean of the College of Business, Dean Sherman, and Dean Sherman has agreed to identify a high caliber student in the College of Business who would like to take this on as an internship working for the city of Athens. So that's the first item. So again, I'm requesting council to increase the intern staffing by 1 for an additional intern. The second is requesting that council authorize salary for the next director for engineering and public works. I can authorize 25% into the pay grade. To go above and beyond that, it takes council action. So I'm asking council to increase that to 35% into the pay grade for a highly qualified individual with their professional engineer degree and any other degrees that they may carry with them or certifications for this particular position. As council is aware, and I'm sure the public is aware, that our current Director for Engineering and Public Works, Andy Stone, has accepted the position once the current Service Safety Director, Paula Horan Mosley, retires to become the next Service Safety Director for the City of Athens.
So to clarify this last point, you're requesting from council not an additional 35%. You're just asking council to give it 10% on top of that 25 that you already authorized to give.
Correct. It would That's correct.
And then the total will be 35.
The total will be 35% of the way into that pay grade.
That pay grade is in band 12, is that correct?
No,
11
11.
or 12? It's an 11? Questions, council, on any of these two topics on staffing, the intern? I did have one question. How soon does the intern start?
Hopefully,
I mean, you're using the word summer, but
hopefully May 4th.
May 4th, okay.
As soon as they, well, we'll give them a week off after they graduate or after the end of the semester. As soon as the semester ends, we'd like to get them started.
And it would go on for?
Through the summer
Through
until.
summer, September, October?
Well, we're hoping that we can pretty much get this wrapped up, you know, before September.
Okay. That's all I have. Okay. Councilmember?
I was just wondering if the summer intern is a paid position.
Oh, it's a paid position.
And what is the pay?
$9 an hour.
Okay.
Interested?
No, but I talk to a lot of students who do internships, and I'm certain that topic will come up, paid versus unpaid internship. So I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
This intern, you're negotiating with Dr. Sherman. Is that on a bachelor's degree level or a master's? Any idea what you're looking for?
We're looking, no, it'll be an undergraduate student.
Okay, an undergrad. All right.
You know, hopefully someone who's kind of in the honors tutorial. Mm-hmm. You know, someone who just a high performing, and I've mentioned that to Dr. Sherman. I said I'm looking for someone who really knows their stuff when it comes to trend analysis and forecasting. Mm-hmm. And hopefully something that we can continue, you know, entering in our monthly revenue and expense reports even after September, and we just keep putting it in and helping us project ahead.
So are you asking this intern to essentially develop some financial trend models?
That'll be part of it.
And then when they're done, pass them on to the city, and then perhaps someone within the auditor's office or your office would then utilize those, what's been developed, rather than just, here's the data and here's the report.
No, the plan is for this to continue to be a dynamic modeling.
That's good. Yeah, other questions? Guess not. Oh, gee.
We'll move on to Committee of the Whole.
No,
oh, I'm sorry, you have appropriations.
Yeah, we have appropriations, yeah.
Sorry.
Appropriations. What are we appropriating? I haven't heard of anything.
For Arts West, we already have $190,000 appropriated for Arts West. We put it out to bid, and
Zilch.
Interestingly, we got 0 bids for the renovations for Arts West. So therefore, what we've decided to do is that we can do some of the work, kind of breaking things down a little bit, i.e. the concrete. One of the things that's really needed badly is the ADA accessibility ramp up to Arts West. We've kind of pulled that out. We're going to go ahead and, since that's less than $40,000 or somewhere in that range, that we can get that project going so that we have an ADA ramp. But we're going to ask council to increase the appropriations by about $45,000 for the rest of the renovations to Arts West, interior, the bathrooms, the flooring. The asbestos was removed, just so council knows. That was accomplished. I believe it was last week that the asbestos was abated from that building, which was largely the tile flooring that was in the lower level. So that's been removed. That's complete. But again, we just need to go back out to bid. We will have a kind of a rapid turnaround on getting this out to bid again. So when this comes up Monday, I'm not saying we're going to suspend right away, but we may need to suspend soon to get this out.
Madam President?
Can you go through the basic math on this? So you had $198,000, you didn't get any bids. You're going to do some of the work internally, the concrete that might be, you said 40? 45,000. So are you going to go out to bid for 198 less the 40 plus another 40? Or I'm just sure on what the grand total is going to be that you're going to put out to bid?
Sure. The ramp's about $40,000. So then we'll be left with 150 within what was appropriated. The new bid contingency is $175,231.25. If you add in the RVC fee of $18,285, we're looking at a total of $193,516.25 for the project. So the additional appropriation would be $43,516.25, so rounding it up to $45,000 for Arts West.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Okay. Oh.
Mayor, does this
Carl?
include the roof? Does the work include the roof on Arts West? What were we talking about in the Rec Advisory Board meeting about the roof of Arts West, or this is not part of the roof?
You know, Member Crowell, I don't know if the roof is part of this. I thought
It's not,
not.
it's just bathrooms and inside.
Inside, ADA accessibility,
Mostly interior.
that's what I thought as well, but I can certainly get back to council, you know, before next Monday night to answer that question completely, but I don't believe that the roof was part of this. That may have been looking ahead at the Athens Community Center roof, but that's a whole different topic. I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all we have.
You know what? I'm sorry, I always come in
Costas.
late. Yes. Is it just was the work too much? We don't have any reason why we got 0 bids, right? I mean,
Yeah, Member Katsas, right, one of the unfortunate things, I believe, and again, this is understanding how many addendums started coming into this project, that a lot of things should have been pulled in with the initial bidding, well, actually, this past bid, to where there weren't addendums, things being added in at the last minute. It should have just been one package going forward, and that's the intent with this rebidding it this time, is there hopefully will not be any last minute changes that go into this. Some of the things that got left out on the last bid and became an addendum were the flooring for the lower level of the Armory, the lower level of Arts West. It was an oversight, and then it got put in, but it gets put in as an addendum, and you got to get that in before so many days before, you know, the bid goes out, and it just, we're correcting all that to where it just goes forward as one solid bid.
okay. Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to, may I continue? Just want to make the point that in the Rec Advisory Board meeting, we talked about that being an ideal roof for solar. No canopy covering it, it's very exposed on top of a hill. And so as we look in the future for the, you know, perhaps solar on municipal buildings, that would be a project. And so if the roof is not part of it now, that's okay. Looking forward, that might be a good opportunity.
That's a great suggestion.
That's all.
All right.
For this committee.
We'll move on to Committee of the Whole, the topic being Keep Jobs in Athens County, a resolution of support. And Council Member Reisner mentioned a few weeks ago when we received news in the media about the closing of the Hocking Correctional Facility, that he thought this was important to bring forward and is, I believe, proposing a resolution because of the fact with the potential closing, there could be a loss in city revenue for the city of Nelsonville of up to $360,000 and ramifications for the city of Nelsonville, but also the Southeast Ohio communities around here. So, Councilmember Reisner, did you have some comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. That sums up my reasoning why I think it would be good and maybe necessary that the city of Athens supports a sister city here in our county because this closing, which I believe would mean a loss of over 100 jobs, well-paying jobs, jobs that have good benefits, that are union, and will have a very negative impact if they disappear. And what affects one part of our county affects us as a whole and affects our region. So I believe it would behoove us to come up with a resolution of support for Nelsonville, stating why we believe that these jobs should remain, that the Bureau of Corrections should reconsider this, what I think is a rather rash, not well thought out act, and if other solutions or other possibilities may exist for this facility, which I'm sure was very expensive to construct and maintain, should be explored, and we should do everything we can to keep these jobs within Athens County. If anyone would like to speak to that.
I agree. I would support a resolution. Yeah, another support for a resolution about things that are being done to us without our real input or a conversation. It will impact Nelsonville greatly, but also at the same time, we were just talking about the costs of taking people over to Washington, and that's going to increase our budget for those sort of things. And we've had no real communication. It's just kind of down here, and they said, look, we're doing this, and you guys deal with the whole problem. And so I think that Nelsonville should look at having a closure impact if they do have to close it, where they have to have certain amounts of money that are coming from Columbus. I think that maybe we want to look at that because of an increase in costs to us for transportation and daily rates, because when there's less prison space, it's harder to get people, in, which will affect everything that we do. And personally, I'm sure that they're not building another space as a state correctional institution. They're probably, this is another push towards, for-profit prisons, which is zero help to anything that we do down here with opioids or anything. So I would encourage that something in the resolution also say about our opioid problems and that we need to have home-based solutions.
Other council member comments? Member Spelling?
Yes, since we're talking about a couple of different jail, the contract with Washington County and then also the closing of this prison, the individuals who would be transported for holding in the Washington County Jail as per this contract would not be the same prisoners that would otherwise be held in the prison that is closing. It's for overflow for our regional jail in Nelsonville that is not closing, but is often full because the regional jail in Nelsonville does not have enough beds frequently for female inmates. So just since both of those conversations are kind of getting interwoven, but I certainly support a resolution in opposition to closing of the prison, but it is a separate issue from the housing of inmates at the Washington County Jail.
But if the local prison, we don't have access anymore, it's going to be the same. We already have transportation costs, such as our female transportation costs, but a whole lot more.
Member Costas.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know a ton about jails, and maybe that's a good thing. But probably for me the biggest thing is that there was just no discussion. It was just announced, and I believe conversation and negotiation is always the best route to take, and it wasn't taken here. So I see no reason why we shouldn't get this through as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. There was a meeting a couple weeks ago that took place out at the Hocking Lodge on Hocking College's campus, to which Representative Stivers came down, and what troubled me to share with council and anyone who's watching tonight was basically the opening comment, and that was, this facility is closing down. So let's get over that and move forward in thinking about what it could be in the future, which again, just as everyone on the dais who's chimed in tonight has basically said that, it's like, so let's get rid of something and then we'll plan later for what it can become, as opposed to working together to make sure it could become something useful, as opposed to stripping away $300 and some thousand from the city of Nelsonville. And it's just not Nelsonville. You know, my colleague up in Logan, Mayor Fraunfeld, you know, Logan's being impacted. Hocking County is being impacted negatively. Certainly Athens County, Nelsonville, the city of Athens. I don't know how many of our citizens here work up there, but I imagine there's likely somebody who's working up there and living in the city of Athens. Again, I don't know that for a fact, but you know, to sit in that meeting and to hear people come up with ideas for what it could be, and there was a lot of good ideas, that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, and where is that coming from? And meanwhile, again, all I could think about was how Nelsonville is probably, and I know what it's like putting our budget together, and I can only imagine if I all of a sudden had a whole, you know, at what Nelsonville's what their budget is, and now you're taking away $325,000, $350,000 in revenue that was coming in, and it's just gone, filling that void. To me, it just feels like every time Nelsonville gets their legs under them in a good way with good things going on, that something like this happens, which is shameful. But I'll get off my soapbox. Council, I want to see this resolution because I support what you're doing when it comes to supporting not just our sister cities. You're supporting our county. You're supporting southeastern Ohio.
Well, no other comments. I believe Monday we'll have a resolution put together. So any and all comments and things that people would like to see included in it, we'll consider it. Just pass it on to our clerk of council.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now move on to the Planning and Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. We have two rather mundane sort of, after prisons and body cameras, all sorts of stuff. AEP would like a easement over by, I think East Park, over bike lanes, to do some work. They want approximately 40-foot easement, 40 feet wide, about 136 feet long easement in order to be able to do high tension wires, not high tension wires, high voltage installation over in that general area. There's a contract that's on the drive, fairly straightforward. It's not like the first easement that they have in the city. It will become part of the regular easement right away that they have. We negotiate every year with them about what their responsibilities and rights are for the easements that they do work within the city. It will become part of that, but we need to grant it because it's not an easement right now. It's a more in-depth license. We do right-of-way licenses, 10-year licenses. This is a little more detailed, but basically the same. So, sexy. That's what we love.
Councilmember
Nice
Fall,
and yeah.
Can you help me with a location on that? East Park Drive near the bike path. I'm just not.
Well, East Park Drive, actually, a little bit closer to. It is by the bike path. It's near where the new Muntean Medical is going in, down in that area. There, I don't know if.
Well, that's one thing.
Scott Orion can zoom in on this.
Right, their Exhibit A is not really that helpful because they have bike path and road. They don't really have much, you know, existing right-of-way and
that clarifies.
East Park Drive. So it's, I know it has lots of numbers, so it may be updating the exhibit. So, thanks. Okay. So that will come Monday, forward Monday. And the next agenda item is a grant through NOPEC that we talked about before, but the mayor has more details.
Sure. This is the NOPEC grant that I did mention a while ago. I believe the grant is for $12,500 or somewhere close to that. And so this would be an ordinance of council authorizing us to accept said grant for alternative energy projects. Remember, Crowell, you were just mentioning solar panels on Arts West. This wouldn't be that extensive, although there are some creative ideas that have been flowing around out there. As an example, it could be for a solar kind of awning down near the new pool, in the pool, where people can charge their personal devices at a kind of a kiosk area, but with a shelter and solar panels. As you can imagine, 12,000, well, that's a lot of money in the solar world. That's not going to go a whole long ways, but there's a possibility of coming to council in the near future with another alternative energy grant, which comes through SOPEC. And so there's a possibility of starting to kind of link these together for more substantial projects dealing with solar.
Well, and since you mentioned SOPEC, I think this is an example of the power that you have through aggregation. I was a little disheartened by some of the comments that people had on Facebook. I don't know why I would be, some of the comments, you know, it's Facebook. And I think that one thing that why SOPEC, why the aggregation has passed in the city of Athens is because we take our responsibility about being looking at and being a part of the Paris Agreement, the mayor's partnership. We are taking a leadership role, and that's part of the aggregation of SOPEC. But because we have SOPEC, we also have access to grants and professional development, capacity building that aggregation allows us to do. If you're with just a company, AEP, there isn't that sort of input from the consumers. And I think that's one thing that's really powerful. It puts us in the driver's seat as, it's a form of voting with our dollars. And I think that those sort of empowering home rule sort of things are really important now. So that's my soapbox.
Well, the project I just described as a possibility, which would be, again, a solar charging station for people with their personal devices to charge up, and what better place at the pool, because everyone's at the pool and they're there for extended periods of time. But and that would be more of a service, but you're right. I mean, some larger projects that we could see is where we have solar arrays that are behind the meter, which is basically stating that it's not on the grid, it's back behind feeding into something like the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant. And among other things, the carbon reduction, in terms of emissions with having something like that, the other upside is that it's reducing our electric consumption costs because we're generating our own behind the meter, which in turn allows us to increase the other projects we can get done where otherwise we're spending it on, among other things, our electric bill.
Right. Thank you. So that will come forward.
Yes, just for clarification, so are we applying for a grant, or are we being granted?
We got the grant.
We got the grant, okay. So we just need to accept.
Yes.
Okay. The mayor's nodding yes, so we're good.
Please.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
It shouldn't be a heavy lift, right?
Okay.
Okay. We'll bring that forward Monday. Will you need a suspension?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Great. That's all any other questions? That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. It's 8:16 p.m. We'll stand adjourned from the committee meetings, and we'll see you next Monday night, February 19th. Thanks.